Did he meet Bashir? There's reported, I heard your litany of countries and I couldn't quite keep up with them and I didn't see any readout, but the Foreign Minister of Sudan has said that he met with Omar al-Bashir, who's indicted by the ICC, as you know, for genocide and war crimes. Did he meet with them, and what is this, a change of policy?
It's not a change of policy. They were both at the same summit. In that context, they did meet with each other on the grounds of the sort of operational necessity that does allow the Secretary General to meet from time to time with him. But that doesn't obviate the need, of course, for respect of the International Criminal Court.
But was Sudan in the list of countries that you read out just at the top of the briefing? And if not, why not?
It was not, because it was not a formal scheduled meeting. Edie?
Thank you, Farhan. On the Secretary General's meeting with President al-Bashir, could you give us any more details on what was discussed?
No, I don't have anything further. Discussions on operational necessities ultimately involve the sort of work that we need to accomplish on the ground. So obviously, as you know, we do have a presence on the ground with our various forces, including the UN mission in Darfur, the UN force in Abyei. And so it would be about some of that would involve the work of those bodies.
Follow up?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted, because this is what the Foreign Minister of Sudan said about the meeting. He described the meeting as extremely successful and positive. He told reporters on Sunday the UN Secretary General hailed Sudan's government's efforts to achieve peace in Darfur and its declaration of a ceasefire in the zones. And he went on, you know, he kind of characterized it not so much as operational as being one of praise. And I'm wondering, have you seen this readout? And if so, is it true or not true? And why didn't you do your own readout?
We are not really issuing a lot of readouts from any of these meetings. We do provide certain details, as I've done here. But regarding that, it's typical for different member states to have their own characterizations of meetings. When we talk about meetings, ultimately, the point that we give is that they are designed to achieve certain ends. We do them to make sure that crucial bits of work are achieved. It's not about praise or about compliments. It's about concrete results.
Was that wrong that there was at least under Ban Ki-moon, there was a policy of keeping contacts with ICC-indicted individuals to an absolute minimum? And how do you put this meeting in that context?
That remains the case. The policy has not changed.
Could I ask you about it for you?
Hold on. Stefano?
Yes. We know how much the Secretary General cares about the migrants issues and refugee, and he delivered many speeches already. But there's been in January this year an increase of migrants trying to reach Europe through the sea from Libya, Tunisia, and there has been a spike on the death, and it looks like practically every year is the same thing. So is any plan that the UN is doing to take the job off of the trafficant and maybe help these migrants to find a safe way to reach their goal? Thank you.
Well, you're aware of the work that we've been trying to do to concentrate the attention of member states on the need to deal with the situation of migrants in a comprehensive manner. You'll have seen the report that Louise Arbour presented, and we're trying to get all states, whether they are receiving countries, bless you, transit countries or countries of origin, to work with each other to make sure that migration is managed in an effective way that respects the rights and the dignity of all the people involved. And so that is underway, and I'll refer you back to the report that was issued on this.
Just a quick follow-up. I understand. In fact, I'm aware of all the attempt. It's just that because as I was saying in the beginning, this month, just in a few weeks, there's been a spike, percentage of people crossing and people dying. So it looks like things are getting worse instead than better.
Yeah, and these are recurring problems which attest to the need to actually deal with the situation of migration in a comprehensive and a holistic manner. Otherwise, we'll keep coming back to these problems again and again. This is what the Secretary General has been saying for some time now, and the events of the last few weeks demonstrate how serious the situation is and why we need to deal with it in a much more forthright manner than we've done. Yes, Majid.
Yes, Farhan, to follow up about Afrin, you mentioned some information about reports from ground. I believe that's not directly from UN staffs, but since you rely on some reports that's coming from activists, probably, or I want you to tell me the source of information.
These are the best possible sources of information we can have on the ground. We don't simply rely on news sources that could be biased, but we try to verify everything.
And I wanted to ask you about the number of civilians, the death of civilians. There are reports that, according to the hospitals, that dozens of civilians have been killed because of the bombing, and including 12 reports of 12 children have been killed because of the bombing in the past 2 to 3 days. Has the UN received any of these reports? Did you verify these claims?
Yes, we can't verify the numbers, but yes, there have been reports of a high number of casualties, including of women and children, and we are very concerned about that.
And the second follow-up, I wanted to ask you about the legality of this. Russia's military presence is, they say, is because of the approval of the Damascus, and the U.S. is under the framework of fighting terrorism. Can you tell me about, has there been any contact with the UN, any discussion about the legality of the Turkish operation in Syria, which is, according to the UN Charter, still a sovereign country?
I don't have any comment to make on that, other than that, of course, we want all of the military actions on the ground to be in accordance with international human rights and humanitarian law.
Do you think it's legal?
I've said what I can say on that, yes. Zach?
Thank you, Farhan. To what degree, if at all, did the Secretary General discuss the crisis in Cameroon and Nigeria during his meeting?
Zach, let me check. I don't have any particular comment on this. I mean, this is something obviously that comes up in his meetings with other leaders, but I don't have anything in particular in terms of meetings with particular leaders on this.
I guess I was going to ask about Afrin, but I just want to ask. I mean, just a yes or I guess you're yes or no. Whether at the AU or otherwise, it's now been 21 days since leaders of Southern Cameroon were taken into custody in Abuja, while the Deputy Secretary General was actually in town in Abuja. Has the UN made any inquiry at any level as to where they are?
Yes.
Where are they?
Yes.
What answers did they receive?
I don't have any details on their location to give you, but this is something that was raised, including by the Deputy Secretary General.
While she was there?
Yes.
Okay. Could I ask, on Afrin, this is a different take on it, but Turkey has arrested over 300 people, including journalists, for commenting negatively on social media and otherwise on the bombing of Afrin, saying that they are, quote, spreading terrorist propaganda when they criticize this olive branch so-called campaign. Does the UN, I mean, I guess it goes without saying, but is there any UN response to the idea that even reporting facts about an ongoing military campaign can be construed as terrorist propaganda?
We would be concerned about any actions that constrain the rights of the media to report freely on the facts of any situation.
And I wanted to ask you just one other thing. It's something I asked Stefan last week. It has to do with the budget resolution that was passed saying that resources for Kiswahili radio in particular should be reallocated back to where they were supposed to be. And I wanted to know, because my understanding is that this was raised now in the Africa group and there's a note verbal coming to him. Is it DPI's position that they complied with that resolution?
Yes. We've checked with our DPI colleagues. Yes, they have complied with the resolution. There's a certain amount of detail about how they provide Kiswahili and Portuguese services, but the bottom line is yes, that they have been working with member states and working within the framework of the resolution.
Are there Kiswahili-speaking staffers that are being let go February 1 and losing their visa and returning to Tanzania?
I believe that there was one case of someone who had whose contract had ended at the end of last year and then got a 1-month extension, in other words, for the month of January, and that has now ended. So that's a case where the previous contract simply had gone to its limit.
But is that post actually being filled? My understanding is that it's not, that you're basically going to have one of the few key things empty.
DPI is trying to fulfill all of the language functions within the range of the number of posts it has and the budget it has. And with that, Brendan, come on up.